So here in number 2, we're just trying to place the comma correctly. Right now, you have your comma, well, right now it reads, while deliberately adding chemical compounds to a lake may seem destructive and irresponsible, comma, this method of experimenting is sometimes the most effective way to blah, blah, blah. So, um, as it is, it's definitely not bad. You have your first sort of thought, right? Comma, and then the actual sentence begins. You have to understand the subject of this sentence is this method, right? Because all of this stuff before the comma is not a complete sentence. The sentence, well, not that the sentence starts, but the actual subject of the sentence is this method, and the verb is. So if you cut off this first part, this would actually still be a complete sentence, but just this first part alone is not a complete sentence. So right where this comma is right now is a pretty appropriate separation. So you have your first thought here, and then your second thought starts, and the second thought is a complete sentence. But let's look at the other options. So the other options you have in B, you have comma and. If we have comma and or comma but, we got to remember that what comes before and what comes after have to both be complete sentences. The issue here is that what comes before this comma and, so up until destructive, would not be a complete sentence. Right? While deliberately adding chemical compounds to lake may seem destructive. That is not a complete sentence. There's no subject. So we can't have B. C. In C, we surround irresponsible with 2 commas, right? We often do this when what's between the commas in some way qualifies or describes what was said before. With that, if you put something between commas, the sentence has to make sense even if that bit wasn't there. So is that the case here? Not really. Irresponsible doesn't describe destructive. And if we remove irresponsible, if we remove that bit between the commas, then the sentence doesn't make sense, because then it would read destructive and this method of experimentation, right? So that wouldn't make sense. So C is also out. We can't just surround irresponsible with commas. What about D? You're putting the comma after this method. That would be pretty awkward placement, simply because here, again, you're separating one thought sort of from the next, while here you'd be taking the subject, which is this method, and you would be, with this comma, sort of separating it from the rest of the sentence. So that would be kind of awkward placement, and you would be putting it, sort of combining it in a way with what's before, which is improper, because again, one thought is that adding chemical compounds to a lake may seem destructive and irresponsible. The next thought is that this method of experimentation is sometimes the most effective way to influence policy. So the way it is right now is perfectly fine. You have your comma separating your 2 thoughts, so your answer is A.